Live to see it, friends, and welcome to The World Transformed. This program is your guide to an astounding future that lies ahead, one that will be here sooner than you think, and one that you have an important role to play in bringing about. So when does this amazing future begin? Well, today is the day. My name is Phil Bowermaster, and with me in the virtual studio is my co-blogger, co-futurist, and co-host, Stephen Gordon. Hello, Stephen.
Hey Phil, how are you?
Well, I'm super fantastic. How are you, my friend?
Doing great, doing great.
All right, well, we've come to the end of another week. We've been blasting through these 30-minute shows, and I feel like we've kind of saved the best for last because although our topic tonight is steps forward and steps back, this is our favorite format for the show. It's really just kind of a grab bag of developing technologies and future predictions.
Absolutely, it's we tend to enjoy these shows from the perspective of the hosts. We have a better time sometimes with these grab bag shows than with a one that's got like a solid theme to it. So
yeah, and it's
yeah,
not
so
just because not
time.
just because we have a short attention span. Although I think that
That might be part of
that
it.
might factor in. But it's great to lay out several examples of how things are changing, and you get a nice perspective on how rapidly really the future is kind of happening when you start looking at some of these. But I thought I'd play it fair. I would say, well, we've done a lot. We've talked a lot about positive changes, and we generally talk about positive changes. But I thought tonight we'd frame it around steps that are moving us forward and steps that might be moving us back. I tend to believe that steps that move us back, things that move us in a backward direction, only give us something to respond to and only give us the opportunity to make additional steps forward, generally speaking. Not that I think they're good for that reason. I think that it's better to move forward. If something then does set us back, yes, it gives us the opportunity to move forward, but it would be better if we hadn't been moved back. So just want to clarify that philosophically. We're gonna find the light at the end of the tunnel, or make lemons out of lemonade with the steps back. But we're never going to argue that setbacks are a good thing. At least I won't. I won't argue that. I don't know. Maybe you buy into that, Stephen. I don't think so though.
Not a huge Luddite over here, Phil. So no, as a general rule, when we're able to make a step forward technologically speaking, that's going to be a good thing. We're solving a problem. That's the whole reason for developing tech. And sometimes it introduces a new problem, but it's never as bad generally as the problem that it solves. So, yeah, you might be taking 2 steps forward, 1 step back, but still you're making progress.
Yeah, and even if we take 2 steps back, we're going to take 3 forward. That's the bottom line.
There you are.
We're always going to be. That's just the direction we're trying to move as a civilization, as a species. So,
Right.
okay, I knew it. We're on the same page. Okay, here we go. So I've got a few of these, and I know you've got 1 or 2 that we can that we can look at. So let's talk about some generally interesting things. Here's my first example of a step back. This is a very interesting headline from the BBC website in the science section, and the headline is "Few asteroids are worth mining," suggests Harvard study. Well, we did a show on that discussed asteroid mining just a few months ago, talking about there are whole new businesses being introduced with quite a bit of fanfare around the tremendous potential that asteroid mining represents. Tremendous economic potential, tremendous potential in terms of the future of humanity, in terms of helping us to reach beyond this planet and reach into space. Something we're terribly excited about, actually, is seeing these companies go into business and people actually start creating wealth beyond Earth, making the economic activity of humanity, expanding its sphere out into the solar system. One of the biggest transformations of the economy and really of humanity that's ever occurred, should it occur. Now here we've got a scientist saying, Dr. Martin Elvis, saying that as they put it in the article, our cosmic neighborhood might not be such a treasure trove after all. And basically, he's done some looking around at the closest asteroids, and he says, well, they're probably not as good for the commercial scale mining as you might think. If you read in detail, I'll put the link obviously on worldtransform.com and elsewhere. A good deal of analysis around the composition of asteroids, and I think in particular they're interested in the ones that are made of nickel and one other element. I can't remember what the other one is. Stephen, would you know offhand?
Well, I mean, any sort of precious or semi-precious metal, copper, nickel, anything like that would be worth a look, obviously. But
Yeah. Apparently, the ones with nickel, if you see a lot of nickel, and maybe it's easier to detect, it tells you that other things are there, or something like that.
yeah,
Um, and so this guy's saying, well, there's not as many nickel ones out there. Now, we've got Eric Anderson, who is co-founder of Planetary Resources. He responded to the BBC News that this analysis is completely inaccurate, that they were ridiculously conservative, off by a factor of about 100. So the truth is going to lie somewhere in between. There's not much out there, and there's 100 times more than that guy is saying out there. In terms
it
of
would be it'd be a huge disappointment if it turned out that most of these asteroids were just collections of gravel.
Mhm.
That would not be very cool. But I tend to agree with you that it's probably the truth is probably going to be in the middle. That it's maybe not as rich as the boosters of some of these potential mining companies would like you to believe, nor will it be as poor as this, but somewhere in between. So, again, if it's rich enough to allow people to give people a reason for going, that's exciting, and so hopefully that's what we'll see when we
and
get out there.
I know one of the articles we talked about in the earlier show when we discussed this, or I believe it was an article by Peter Diamandis, in which he talked about one asteroid being worth trillions, right? One asteroid being worth as much as all the platinum that's ever been mined on Earth, or some outrageous amount like that. So,
Apparently, platinum is thought to be, while very very rare here on Earth, is thought to potentially be plentiful in orbit.
and that may be the other metal
Solar
that's
system.
paired with nickel. It could be that
Yeah,
it's
could
nickel
be a
slash
platinum.
platinum. Yeah,
Yeah,
and nickel's not worthless itself. Obviously, there's
yeah.
value in nickel, but if Diamandis is right, then it's just a matter of solving the technological problems, because the reason for going after the stuff is there, because it's out there, and it would be worth figuring out how to jump those technological hoops to get out there and get it. If
And another thing that would be hugely important to find is we can find quantities of water.
hmm,
In what if you find quantities of water ice, you could have those pre-positioned in various places in the solar system to where you could come there, you could get the water for drinking or whatever, but also you can get oxygen and hydrogen out of it, which would be extremely important. So. Yeah, if we can find water, that'd be exciting also.
very helpful in terms of getting people out into space, because we need water,
Yeah,
and it's a big hassle having to carry it up from Earth, get it out of our gravity well. If there's some up there that we can get our hands on, and we know there's plenty, and we're talking near Earth. That's the
yeah.
difference. We know there's
There's
plenty out there, way out there in the asteroid belt, there, or excuse me, in the Oort cloud. There's plenty of water out there in the form of comets. Snag a
And
few
we
of those,
believe
and
now that there's sizable amounts of water on the moon.
right.
But even the moon has a little bit of a gravity well, and so if you could find it in large enough portions in asteroids, that would be even better than having it on the moon. It'd be just readily available for just to pick up in flight, basically, if you're going potentially say to Mars or something.
Right.
Could,
So here we have
yeah,
this statement that it's a step back, uh, by me. My statement that it's a step back to have learned that they may not be that rich a source of minerals. But here's where the step forward may come. Okay, first off, this guy could be wrong, in which case it's not really a step back at all, or he could be right, in which case we have to note that he's talking about near-Earth asteroids. He's not talking about everything out in space. Because bottom line is, there are resources worth going after in space, even if they aren't in the near-Earth asteroids. So if this turns out to be a step back, it doesn't mean it's the end of us doing all those things I was talking about before, expanding ourselves out into space, expanding our economic activity out into space. It just means it might take us longer. It might be a little bit harder to
it'd
do it.
slow our progress if it turns out that there is no low-hanging fruit.
Right.
It would tend to slow our progress. Yeah.
Right. If we find that to be the case, but we'll still do it. It will still happen. So that's my quick wrap on that step back. Now I've got another step, and this one's a step forward. Great story here that I read on Kurzweil AI. Turning off the aging genes. Computer algorithm developed by Tau researchers identifies genes that could be transformed to stop the aging process. Now, stop the aging process is strong language, but here's what they're doing. This is at Tel Aviv University, and they have figured out which genes to turn off to give you the same anti-aging effects that you get from calorie restriction. So without having to implement calorie restriction, you could go in through a drug protocol, or I presume that would have to be the thing that would do it, and turn off those genes, and you'd get the exact same benefits that calorie restriction provides. So it's not an instant cure for aging, but it's a very straightforward way of applying a benefit, a known benefit in other species, to the human species, which we've not actually observed calorie restriction having as dramatic effect for humans as it does for other species. But presumably, if you turn those gene switches off, you'll get the same benefit that, say, a mouse. They can calorie deprive a mouse, excuse me, and then that mouse lives the human equivalent of like 200 years or something like that. Is that right? They live a long time. I could be exaggerating, maybe 120 years. So if this is true and if this works, this is a huge step forward in terms of in terms of life extension. It's not the answer to everything, but it does speak to other possibilities too. It's like, well, calorie restriction turns off some genes that have some benefits. What about some other things that we've just never figured out how to get to? And some experiments that seem to be in order there as well. Although pity the mouse, I suppose.
Yeah, Huntington's disease, for example, apparently is caused by just one error in one particular gene.
Right.
Most diseases are not like that. There's like multiple errors all over the genome that cause most diseases, or maybe just predispose you to having a disease that it may show up in you, but if you're unlucky, and others that have the same exact genetic makeup might not get it. But Huntington's disease, if you've got this gene problem, you're going to develop the problem in your 30s.
Right.
And there's nothing that can be done about it at present. What if you could just turn that gene off, and people would live a normal life after that? And the tragedy of Huntington's could be solved in just that one step. Absolutely. We need to get really good at turning genes on and off. It's is the beginning of a very important step in medicine, and I'm excited about that.
Yeah, and that they've tuned it to life extension, I think, is very exciting too. I don't want to lose sight of the fact that that's a key piece of this. We're still talking about a computer algorithm that predicts which genes can be turned off. So we're not talking about any lab work that's been done. No humans have been made to live longer. No other animals that I know of from this methodology have been made to live longer. But it's pointing in the right direction. It's a model that, if it pans out, is going to give us some tremendous benefits. And there's a lot to be said about what the future of our we call this transformation. Let me slip into something more comfortable. Our ability to control our own bodies, to make modifications to ourselves. There's a lot to be said about how mapping the human genome has moved us tremendously in that direction, and we're really in the very earliest stages of understanding what that's going to mean for us in the future. Right now, it hasn't meant an awful lot. There haven't been the quick cures for diseases that some people were looking for, and there haven't been the immediate make yourself invulnerable to obesity, or cure any possible disease, or cure any possible condition, some of the kind of fantasy scenarios that people had. But we do know what our genome is. That information is now tracked, and it's simply a matter of time, I think, before we start teasing out some of these really remarkable kinds of treatments.
I have a related topic that is another step forward, Phil.
Okay.
Okay, the first human genome cost $3 billion to do.
Right.
Okay, the sequencing of the Human Genome Project cost $3 billion, and there has been an exponential decrease in the cost of of human genetic sequencing ever since.
Right.
And I believe it was late in President Clinton's second term when it was announced that they had their first draft. Am I remembering it right,
I
Phil?
believe that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. And so there was 8 years under Bush, and now we are what in about the sixth year of President Obama's
Right.
presidency. So it just give you an idea how long it's
How
been.
long it's been going? About
Yeah,
16 years? No, 8. Is that right? 16 years? Yeah.
yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
So here we are, that far into it, and what do we have to show for it? Just announced in the last couple of weeks is the $1,000 human genome. Now, $1,000 human genome, Phil, is in the range of, it's getting to the point that pretty much everybody that needs to have it done can get it done,
Right.
and and not imagine if you had the resources. I'm the $4 billion billionaire, and I've just decided, you know what, I want my genome to be the first, and I paid for it back during Clinton's second term. What use would that information be to me once I got the draft of my genetic sequencing? Well, not much, because not the science of what to do with it had to grow from that, right?
Right.
And so and so it's you sort of had a little bit of a chicken and egg problem. Well, now that we've got the eggs, we can have chickens, I guess now, because
Right.
we'll have with $1,000 genomes and the price continuing to go down from there. The science of what to do with that information is going to grow exponentially, and it will be, my $500 genome that I may have done in 2 or 3 years from now will be of great value to me, much more value than the hypothetical billionaire of 15 years ago. So
Absolutely.
and so anyway, that's a very exciting step forward, and it's a huge next step for medicine.
And when you step us through that, Stephen, when you talk through that, it occurs to me that one of the points we were so adamant about making earlier on is that a step back always leads to steps forward. Well, guess what? Steps forward also lead to steps forward. That's kind of the
That's
cool
right.
thing about them.
Yeah.
And so,
It's a concept called the adjacent possible.
right.
It's not.
Yeah.
It's not. Things that are possible now that we got $1,000 genome were not possible. They were not adjacent to do the
Right.
next thing back when they were just doing the first copy of it. So yeah,
Yeah, that
it's
first $3 billion genome opened up a world of possibilities that we're just beginning to realize. And what's happening now with the $1,000 genome is just opening up more and more possibilities. So
yeah, just so yeah, I'll go ahead and I say the name of the company. It's Illumina's HiSec X10 system. And they do a run where they have multiple people in the same run, and it averages out to a cost of $1,000 per person.
nice.
So yeah,
It's a good deal.
yeah,
Affordable, folks. Getting
yeah,
affordable. There you go. Okay, let's talk about another step back. We're getting all happy here. So
yeah. Let's be sad now.
here's another one I found over on AI. This is the NSA's top secret technology can tap/infect computers even when not connected to the internet. This is not a technological step back, because obviously this is some very sophisticated technology that the NSA has going for them. This is a step back for anybody who doesn't want people messing with their stuff and spying on them and some of those kinds of things. Let me read just a portion of this. It says the NSA has used secret technology to input and alter data in computers even if they're not connected to the internet, according to some of the documents from Edward Snowden. And this came out in the New York Times. The technology uses radio signals generated in tiny circuit boards and inside USB cables inserted surreptitiously into the computers by a spy, manufacturer, or unwitting user and transmitted covertly to a briefcase-sized relay station that intelligence agencies can set up miles away from the target. The system can also insert malware into the computer. It is only used on foreign targets and defensively, according to an NSA spokesperson. Oh, I didn't read far enough, so there's nothing to worry about whatsoever. Uh,
Well, I heard I was watching Meet the Press or one of the shows earlier today, and they said, you know what, it's something to be concerned about, this NSA stuff. But you know what? We should keep in mind we don't have a single victim we can point to yet. You know,
Right.
um,
That's true. Yeah.
and so yeah, they have these capabilities, and you know what? Some if it's aimed at the enemies of civilization, I'm all for bugging the Taliban's computer
Oh yeah.
systems.
Yeah.
You know,
Even if they're not on the internet, I agree. Yes.
yeah, that's right. And so that's cool. But and you know what? If what you're talking about is the collection of data of who's calling whom, and not necessarily the content of the call, there's some argument to be made that you know what, you know, I, if you're not calling on a regular basis, terrorists, then you probably don't have a lot to worry about. If they're, in other words, if they're bugging everybody, they're bugging nobody.
Yeah. I've
To
heard
some
that.
to some extent, because
Let me respond to that, Stephen.
yeah,
If they're
go ahead.
bugging me, that's bugging me. Okay, do you see what I'm saying?
It's gonna bug you regardless.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
right. Yeah, to me,
Yeah, but
it comes down more to
can, can
it's
they?
okay. They're just trying to fight the bad guys. Therefore, it's all right if they take all your info. I'm like, I'm not comfortable with that. I'm really not.
And hey, I gathered that, but you know what, Phil? With all due respect, probably not interesting to them.
I hope not. Well,
Yeah, I
I'm
mean,
counting on that actually. Yeah.
exactly. I mean, if you calling your grandmother is of no concern to them, you know. So, anyway, but again, I think
Well, it
there's a
might be because she's been
potential.
gone for some time. So
Oh, my apologies.
no, it's okay. But
But
but you know what I'm saying though. When they tell you you should always have like tape over your webcam when you're not using it. You know, there's these kind of paranoid things we're told to do these days
yeah,
because they're watching us all the time. It's like, well, you'd think, well, if I'm not on the internet, everything's safe. Well, no,
not anymore.
there's technology that will even bypass that. So I agree with you, Stephen, that it has not done me any personal physical harm, but I have a hard time letting go of the idea that there isn't something ominous about.
There is the potential for great harm.
Yeah,
I will certainly say that.
yeah.
And there's, hopefully, we'll consider, we need to monitor these things, and the fact that we're waking up to that is a good thing, probably.
Yeah, and so this one was carefully thought about. It's again not a step backwards technologically because this is some pretty impressive technology. You got to admit. And yes, if they're using it on bad guys, I'm glad they have it, and I'm glad they're able to make it work. But we've got a lot of technologies that we should be using on bad guys that we were using on our allied heads of states and so forth. And there's just a lot of well, with any technology, there's the potential for abuse and the potential for bad things to be done with it. And right now, the NSA's kind of got a bad reputation for that sort of stuff, deserved or not. Okay, so let's end this with a step forward. And here's a wonderful one. We talked about this briefly on Monday's show. This is a piece. This is a video. Actually, I'll put the link up for the video in all our various sites. But the headline you had mentioned the other day is called "Replacing the Wheelchair," and the TEK, the Tech Robotic Mobilization Device, is a machine developed to replace the wheelchair. They say, and in the video, what you'll see is a man using this device, and you immediately see how fundamentally different the experience is from being in a wheelchair.
Right.
One of the most important ones that they point out is that you can board it from the back, unlike a wheelchair where you have to get in the front, where paraplegics have to go through this awkward turn themselves around kind of maneuver in order to get into a wheelchair. This thing, it comes right up to you.
It's
Yeah,
unsafe.
and it's much safer. The strap goes behind, boom, and you're up. And when I say up, you're vertical when you're using this device. So it's like a stand-up wheelchair. And going back to our discussion of telepresence, it gives the subjective experience of someone walking along. When you see someone using this device, you see them walking. But also, it gives a much greater range of motion than would be possible in the typical wheelchair.
The footprint is like a foot and a half square. So
Yeah.
you can maneuver through very narrow passageways or whatever, just like you would if you were walking. And I'm going to tell you, Phil, the psychological impact of being able to look at other people eye to eye,
Yeah.
rather than being seated and everyone and the world looking down at you, that's got to be huge. And
I would think so. Yeah.
and then the medical impact of the human body is made to be vertical,
Right.
and so it really takes a toll on people to be seated all the time, or worse, to be laying. In the case of quadriplegics, I mean, bed sores, everything else. It's just rough on the human body. Pneumonia and various other problems can result from not being upright.
Right.
And so yeah, this is huge. And as you stated, Phil, I think that this is a lot more practical than the much cooler looking exoskeleton.
Well, we've seen the exoskeletons, and they're so impressive because people actually do walk with those.
They
It's
walk
like,
with those. Yes.
yeah, the legs are really moving, and the actual walking experience is occurring. I think from a standpoint of having an unobtrusive interaction with other people, this robotic mobilization device is probably better. Even though someone in an exoskeleton is actually walking, they're taller than they should be. They're bigger. It's going to be a little off, if not off-putting, a little unsettling when that's occurring around you.
It's a little bit RoboCopy, It's,
A little bit like a RoboCop. Whereas someone using this, well, they're just gliding, so it's like someone walking more smoothly than a person should be able to walk. But it would integrate with people walking and with people interacting with each other much better, actually, than an exoskeleton does. You lose that true walking capability. Also, the range of motion is really neat. In the video, you see the guy shopping, and where a person who doesn't have this disability might kneel or or squat or something like that. This thing lets you do that. You can go to the exact height you need to go, and then you come right back up. Standing among friends, everyone sits down. He can sit down too. It's really cool to see all of the things that we never think about because we have that range of motion that is deprived of people who are in wheelchairs, and it's very exciting to see that a lot of those options are going to be provided to them.
It shows in one part of the video he going through a line, getting a tray with his lunch on it and everything, and he's able to hold his tray and continue to move around because he's got a remote control for the thing. Okay?
Right.
Normally he's operating a little joystick to move around, but in the when you need both hands, you can operate a little remote control like right there on the lunch tray, and I thought that was pretty neat too. It's a nifty device, and I look forward to it for my differently abled friends that some people came to mind when I saw this. And,
Absolutely, it's a real step forward. Let's just put
Absolutely.
it that way. And we'll end with that one. Stephen, what's our music?
Our music tonight is "Witness" by Keto Peters.
Keto Peters with Witness. Well, thanks, Stephen, for putting that together. Thank you all for being with us. It's been great having you with us on The World Transformed this week. We'll be back again Monday with 3 new shows. And until next time, live to see it.
I'm a witness at the fall. Maybe it's not like that at all. I'm a witness. All I see is only what's inside of me. Something got broke when I was a kid. Something tore off the basement lid. Some see the world as an endless kiss. Well, I just sense a greater bliss. All the signs seem pointed down. See that girl in her wedding gown. I traverse the wild within, but I feel says where I've been. I'm a witness at the fall. Maybe it's not like that at all. I'm a witness. All I see is only what's that woven pair. Once you crack the zombie mold, you live beyond where the dreams got sold. I wish I could return, but I watched my own coffin burn. The images I feel so stark. Sheets of lightning split the dawn.